Finally, my very first ride on my brand new 2024 KTM 690 SMCR. Is this going to be a proper Supermoto like my Yamaha YZ450FX custom street legal Supermoto? Well, I'll tell you in this video.
Let's go for a ride. Subscribe today.
If you want to get my gear like this ultra lightweight carbon fiber helmet, motovlog camera, airbag vest to help keep you safe, all of my gear, I always include links in the description and comment section.
Unfortunately, my audio got messed up in this motovlog, so I'm going to have to do a voiceover. And I didn't want to disappoint you guys and not do a first ride video, even though the weather was absolutely terrible for this day. But I had to get it done because I promised you guys. Now, first off, I tell you, this KTM 690 SMCR was at the top of my list for many years to get, but the price deterred me, and also KTM's reliability deterred me. However, everybody praised this bike. Anybody that owned this bike or rode this bike, they praised this bike, and they placed it at the top of their list for street legal supermotos. This bike has 66 horsepower and 48 pounds-feet of torque on the dyno. That's power at the rear wheel. They claim at the crank 74 horsepower and 54 pounds-feet of torque. So obviously you get less at the rear wheel, but that's still a lot of power for this bike. And I did put this on the scale, by the way. It weighs 354 pounds, and that is with a full tank of fuel. So it's a lot more than their stated wet weight of 324 pounds. My YZ450FX Custom Supermoto, which is a 2019, that weighs in at 266 pounds wet. So that's a big difference, 80 plus pounds in weight difference here, guys. And I'll tell you, the weight difference is very noticeable. My YZ feels like a mountain bike compared to this bike. But I will say this bike is light for its class, for what it is. I mean, this has a big bore engine. This has a single cylinder LC4 693cc single cylinder engine here. This is a street engine, so you get long maintenance service intervals. Every 6,000 miles requires an oil change, so very, very low maintenance, extremely low maintenance. Is where my YZ, on the other hand, requires oil changes in hours, every 12 hours, and valve checks often, even though I have yet to do a valve check on my YZ since I first bought it, and it still rides great and starts up lightning quick every time. Now, the price is a deterrent on this bike. Brand new $12,999 MSRP with tax tag, title, and everything. They wanted like well over $15,000. However, I found a dealership that gave me a sick deal. I got it out the door for $12,600. That's $10,999 plus a setup fee and tax tag and title. So that's pretty good. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bought this bike if I had to pay over $15,000. Like I said, that's been a deterrent for me getting this bike all these years. But I will say, if you can get it this price that I got, a couple of thousand knocked off the MSRP, it's worth it in my opinion, because it does have a lot of premium components. It's got a 6-speed gearbox with a quick shifter, Brembo brakes. It has a slipper clutch. It has fully adjustable suspension. It's got a lot of premium components, like I said, on this bike. So once I built my YZ up into Supermoto form, I paid $9,000 out the door for the bike, but it all came out to about, after building it up, maybe about $11,500. So this bike is about $1,000 or maybe $1,200 more than what I paid to build my YZ up. Of course, has a bigger engine and more premium components. So, like I said, I believe it's worth it if you can get a discount on this bike. But anyways, riding this bike for the very first time, as soon as I cracked that throttle open, guys, boom, you can feel the power on this 690. Remind you, it is a 690. However, it doesn't have the grunt like my YZ. My YZ is pure torque. Once you crack that throttle, that torque is right there at the bottom, and you can literally do wheelies by just cranking the throttle on my YZ 450FX, even though it has a 42 teeth rear sprocket on the back. And yet, it still can't tame the torque on that YZ. Now, this KTM 690 is a lot more refined, smooth. Obviously, you know, it has a ride-by-wire throttle. It has rider aids. It's got, I put it in mode 2, which is sport, which doesn't restrict the wheel spin or keep the front wheel down. I took traction control off. I don't like rider aid restrictions on the bike, period. So I didn't even ride with it at all. And I tell you, the bike's power feels proper. Obviously, if you put on an aftermarket exhaust, you know, which gets rid of the catalytic converter, and you put on a power commander and tune the bike, you know, it'll be free flowing, and everybody says the bottom end grunt is much improved. Although it feels great in stock form, like I said, this is a very powerful bike. It feels kind of on par with my MTL7, and a lot of you guys mention that, and it really is, man. But I feel like the MTL7's, once you open the MTL7 up, it's got a lot more grunt than this. But like I said, once I mod this, I'm sure the grunt will be great. But like I said, stock form, this bike is fun, I will say. And I do need to get this suspension adjusted, though, because there is some front dive a bit. Not too bad, maybe like my MTL7, but all it needs is me to get this suspension adjusted for my weight, which is something that I'm going to do. I'm probably only going to put on a slip-on this bike, probably a Leo Vince, even though a lot of you guys told me to put on a Wings slip-on. But I think I'm going to do the Leo Vince because, in my opinion, any slip-on you put on is going to be about very similar. But the Leo Vince looks really sick in black. I don't know that if I'm going to do the power commander and everything yet. Not yet. Because I don't want to void the warranty. I want to see how the reliability is going to be on this bike in pretty much stock form, well, with a few modifications. But I'll tell you this, guys, is that this bike is proper, man. It's a cool bike. It's a different beast, though, than the YZ. The YZ is a wild, violent, adrenaline-inducing supermoto that's just... It's so lightweight and powerful and torquey.
Oh yeah, baby. Woo!
This 690 obviously has a much better top end, and you can feel the power a bit more in the 690, of course, especially at the top end. But at the bottom end, the YZ whoops this, man, because like I said, it's just pure torque with the 450 race bikes. I highly recommend each and every one of you to convert a 450 dirt bike into a supermoto and do it proper like I did. I did a full build series on my supermoto. Go check. I'll include a link to the playlist in the top right corner of this video if you want to see the build series that I did on the YZ. And I implore all of you to have a 450 in the garage. However, they require so much maintenance with frequent oil changes. Like I said, I can vouch for the Yamaha YZ 450FX being a great supermoto in that I have not checked the valves or adjusted them one single time since I've owned it in 2018. And like I said, it starts up lightning fast and it rides fine. I'm probably due to have everything checked and have the bike conditioned because it's been a while. So that's one of the reasons why I got this 690, so I can put my YZ in the shop and let that, get that conditioned up and ready to roll. And meanwhile, I got this bike, and this bike, can be a lightweight ADV bike for me. That's another reason why I got this bike. And this bike is better on the highway. Obviously, it weighs more. It's much more comfortable on the highway. The YZ 450FX actually is pretty good on the highway, believe it or not. but obviously I'm not going to do long stints on the highway with a race dirt bike. As far as passing power on this bike, you have to drop it down to 4th gear to really get this bike cracking. Just like my MTL7, kind of lugs in 5th and 6th gear when you crack the throttle on the highway on the top end. But I'll tell you, the highway manners are a lot better than I had imagined. Like I said, I feel very comfortable on this bike, and it's very smooth on the highway. I feel like I can just keep riding this all the way to California, man. So if I do start touring, it definitely would be on this bike, and I think it'll be a fantastic all-in-one bike for me, especially with its great low-maintenance intervals. The brakes are strong on this bike. Like I said, you do get a little bit of a front-end dive because I need to adjust this suspension. Bike handles very nice. It feels great. There's very low vibrations that I felt in the bar. It's very comfortable. It does have rubber-mounted handlebars there that reduces vibrations, and also has rubber inserts in the pegs. You don't feel any vibrations really in the pegs or anything. Obviously, there's a little bit of vibration to make you feel you're on a gas motorcycle. That's the great thing about it. It's not like an electric, bike where it's just completely has no feeling and character. That's a great thing about a gas engine, and reason why I could never replace a gas engine bike with a electric bike. Just ain't happening, Jack. Gas engines have soul, especially these single cylinders and the twins. Those two are my favorite. And I tell you, this 690 is a proper bike. I really enjoy riding this bike. I didn't really get to rip on it like I wanted to because it's wet out here, and I have brand new spanking new tires, which I will be changing out, by the way. It comes with Bridgestone S21 tires, and they seem to be pretty decent tires, but I'll be putting on some Shinko 705 dual sport tires so I can do some proper off-road action as well as riding on the street. Basically, I'll be turning into a dual sport, except for without the big 21-inch front wheel and 18-inch rear wheel. It is an awesome bike. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have any problems, no false neutrals when shifting. The shifting was smooth. The quick shifter worked fantastic. What else can I say about it? Some things I didn't like about it. Obviously, I don't like the halogen headlight. They should have put an LED headlight for 2024. I mean, that's ridiculous. The display is outdated. All it pretty much shows is a trip meter, the odometer, and speed from what I can tell there. It has a low fuel light, no fuel gauge. My YZ also has a low fuel light. But at least my YZ, I can look at my fuel tank that's in the center, and it's clear. You can you can see the fuel in how much fuel you have in the YZ's tank. This one, it has a rear tank, 3.6 gallon rear tank that obviously you can't see or anything. So you just pray that low fuel light comes on to let you know the fuel's low. Otherwise, you can keep up, with the trip meter. That's another thing I don't really like about this bike is that it has a rear fuel tank. And another reason why I hesitated getting this bike, because I saw a guy do a wheelie fail on this bike, and it caught a spark on the concrete, and it actually caught on fire. So it's kind of like a fire hazard if you get too crazy with wheelies, man. But I don't get the wheel up usually that super high to be worried about that flipping this bike. But it's got a lot of power. You got to be careful, man. I don't know. What do you guys think about this bike? For those of you that have ridden this bike, if you have any other questions for me about it. But I got a lot of videos. I'll be dissecting this bike over the course of owning this bike. So far, I'm really impressed. I'm really, really glad that I bought this bike, man. It is a fun bike. Honestly, I love this bike, though. This 690 so far. We'll see. Make sure to hit thumbs up. It really helps my channel. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell symbol so you get notified when my videos release. But I release new videos every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.